Hi everyone, welcome back to the bench. Today we have a Kenwood TK7160H, and as you can see here, the faceplate has been ripped off. We've got a little crack in the corner where one of the tabs is broken off, and as you can see, the ribbon here has been ripped right off of the circuit board. So this is going to take some careful soldering. We'll have to investigate and make sure that all the traces are still good, all the pads. Now there is a little chunk of plastic missing, and I hope I will find it under the circuit board and I can glue it back, and then this will clip back on without any problems. Now as we get a closer look, ooh, look at that trace. It's been peeled back about a centimeter or so. We've got 2, 3, 4 bad traces. So I'm gonna try and roll these back and reuse them, but we will most likely have to do some bodge jumpers, and I'll use my speaker coil wire for that. So not really looking forward to this, but it's got to be done, and we'll be able to make it work. Alright, so here's a closer look at what we're doing. I've taken the connector off of the ribbon and placed it back on the board. I tinned the contacts that were still good and forgot to record that part. But here we are. So I'm just gonna kind of attempt to work the ones that are still good, and then we'll go from there. Alright, things were getting a little bit sloppy, so I've decided to put on the smallest tip I have, which is not an official Hakko brand, so we're just kind of trying out this cheap Amazon special, and hopefully it'll make a difference with these tiny little pins. Now I've got the multimeter out, and I'm just going to test each one of these pins that still have pads and make sure that my soldering has worked, and we'll figure out which ones need bodge wires. So this flappy trace here, I'm going to just kind of glue it down with some conformal coating about halfway, and we'll let it dry for a bit. And then I'm going to come back and scrape a bit off of it so I have some copper to solder to for one of my bodge wires. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is very difficult. It's a very small space to work in, and you're basically trying to melt the enamel off of this wire and solder it to this tiny little pin at the same time. And it's quite difficult. So I'm going to speed this up, and you'll see that basically it takes a whole lot of trial and error and patience and coffee. There are better ways to do this. There are trace repair kits that you could lay down first before the connector goes on, but I don't have those, and it's just as much fiddling around. So where this isn't gonna be the prettiest looking thing in the world, it will work in the end. And what I will do at the end is I'll coat the whole thing in conformal coating so nothing is gonna come loose. It's gonna look goofy, but it will function totally fine. Alright, well, let's see if it works now. Before I put any of that coating on, obviously, we'll do a little test. Hey, the power button works, the screen is working, the light's working, but unfortunately it's unprogrammed, so I'm gonna have to quickly program it to do some testing. Alright, so here's a known working unit. We want to be able to check that it works. Audio check 1 2 3. We're still putting out 40 watts, so that's a good sign.
Audio check 1 2 3. We're still putting out 40.
Okay, Well, that's a great sign. So now let's take it apart. We're gonna put it into this case that it came out of, which also needs a new speaker, and we'll put the conformal coating on for the protection of our little bodge wires. And here it is all back together. I never did find that little piece of plastic, but it ended up just clicking on, and it's pretty solid, so it's not coming off. Just physically it has that little chip in it. So I'm just testing all the buttons here again to make sure they work. We already did a test with the microphone and we know that works. So well, I'm pretty ready to call this one done. So thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, like, comment, do all those things you want to do, and it really helps us out. And I'd just like to know what you think.